News every 15 minutes, weather every 10, and sports twice an hour.
Newstalk, KGVO, AM 1290 and now 101.5 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
A devastating blow to a small western Montana town. Good morning, everyone. It's Montana Morning for Wednesday, September 30th, 2015. Right now, the sky is mostly clear. We have 39 degrees in Missoula. And our newscast, sponsored by Missoula Nissan Hyundai. Drive what you want affordably. Stop by, find out how leasing may be your best deal on a new car on Brooks near Southgate Mall. This morning's top story, the largest employer in Mineral County, Tricon Timber in St. Regis, has laid off 90 full-time employees. The Missoula newspaper is reporting this morning that employees were notified Friday of the changes. Owner Ken Verley says the layoffs were prompted by the impending expiration of the softwood lumber agreement with Canada on October 13th. He says once the agreement expires, Canadian companies will be able to ship lumber duty-free. Mineral County Extension Office spokesman and economic researcher Kevin Chamberlain says he expects the layoffs to seriously impact the local economy. He says the loss of 4 jobs in the county changes the unemployment by 0.1%. Mineral County has a population of 4,000, but the workforce is only 2,500. The population of St. Regis is only about 300. Missoula's Chief Deputy County Attorney Jason Marks wasted no words in responding to former Undersheriff Josh Clark's offer to settle a human rights complaint for $750,000.
We sent in a response to HRB and to Mr. Clark's attorney yesterday. In sum, we found his demands to be quite unreasonable and well in excess of anything we're aware of in regard to a discrimination claim.
Marks told KGVO News Clark only worked 3 patrol shifts before voluntarily retiring.
He's making a claim that he essentially a wrongful constructive discharge, and he can't support that claim. The fact of the matter is he worked all of 3 patrol shifts before deciding that, he needed to leave the sheriff's department.
Marks concludes his comments to Clark by stating, quote, in light of Mr. Clark's demand for an amount 10 times the figure of $75,000, the highest in the human rights complaint history, Missoula County is forced to conclude that he has no serious interest in settling this matter, end quote. Ravalli County Undersheriff and Coroner Chris Hoffman has released the name of a woman who was killed in Sunday's 2-vehicle accident on Highway 93 south of Stevensville. Hoffman said that 64-year-old Judith Ann Paul of Corvallis was pronounced dead at the scene after the car she was driving southbound on Highway 93 collided with a vehicle traveling east on South Kootenai Creek Road. Montana Highway Patrol is investigating. Missoula County Sheriff T.J. McDermott has asked the City Police Department to investigate an incident that occurred Monday in which sheriff's deputies responded to a call for service that included a gunshot suicide. Public Information Officer Travis Welsh has details.
The deputies have been called to a disturbance in the 7700 block of Star Drive in West Riverside, and while they were meeting and speaking with one party of the disturbance outside of the residence, they heard what sounded like a gunshot coming from inside.
Welsh emphasized the fact that none of the deputies were involved in any way in the suicide. Welsh said Sheriff McDermott reached out to the police department to investigate.
Because there were deputies actually in the vicinity or on the premises, the sheriff felt that it would be better to ask us to do the follow-up investigation just because of that fact, and also to investigate the original disturbance.
KGVO News has a policy never to release names of suicide victims. Governors of 2 western states say the process of removing Endangered Species Act protections from species that have rebounded in number ought to be more straightforward and predictable. Governor Steve Bullock of Montana and Wyoming's Governor Matt Mead testified yesterday before a subcommittee of the U.S. Senate Environment and Public Works Committee. Montana and Wyoming both are home to wolves and grizzly bears, animals that have bounced off and back on again the endangered and threatened lists, even though their numbers are up significantly. Mead says long-term uncertainty over the status of threatened and endangered species translates into uncertainty for business. More information has been released about the bear attack that occurred Sunday west of Kalispell, which sent an elderly woman to the hospital with critical injuries. Region 1 Public Information Officer John Fraley has more.
Our investigative team determined that the attack occurred within the elderly lady's home, and it was a serious attack with serious injuries, and the woman remains hospitalized at Kalispell Regional Medical Center. It also was determined that the bears at the site had been extensively fed, deliberately fed with bird feed and other items at the residence.
Fraley said deliberate feeding of the bear had helped to condition it and will likely result in the bear's death.
We're continuing to attempt to trap the bear. We have traps out there. We have not been successful at this point, and when we do, since that bear has created a human injury and it would be heavily food conditioned, we will likely euthanize the bear when we capture it. So, and we're looking at that. We don't know how the bear got in the home, but we know how it exited out a window. They could not find any point of entry into the home.
Fraley would not say whether the woman had been bitten or clawed during the attack, but said more than one bear in the area may either be removed or euthanized. A handful of Montana hospitals will be penalized starting tomorrow by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Spokesman Michael Fierberg explains.
5 hospitals have excessive readmission rates and will have a reduction in their Medicare reimbursement for fiscal year 2016, which begins October 1st. Those 5 hospitals are St. Peter's in Helena, Benefice Hospital in Great Falls, St. James Hospital in Butte, Northern Montana Hospital in Havre, and St. Vincent's in Billings.
For the past fiscal year, Community Medical Center in Missoula was penalized with a very low 0.01% decrease in Medicare reimbursements. But the good news is they won't see a penalty in 2016. In fact, Fierberg says the relatively low number of hospitals being penalized in Montana is a good sign.
This is actually a pretty good report for Montana hospitals. The percentage of Montana hospitals that are being penalized is lower than the percentage in almost any other state in the country. I think there were 2 states that are lower than Montana. Montana's percentage is about 9 or 10%, but the national average is something about 65% of hospitals are getting penalized.
St. Patrick Hospital was not on the list at all. Finally, the developer of the Keystone XL pipeline is reversing course in Nebraska and will drop its eminent domain lawsuits against landowners who don't want the pipeline running through their property. TransCanada announced yesterday it will stop pushing for the project under a state law that's now being challenged in the courts. Jane Klebe, a leading pipeline opponent, said the company was losing ground in Nebraska. Our News Talk time now, 6:12.
Newstalk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
It will feel pretty warm after another cool start today in Missoula. Talking about a high of right around 78 degrees as we head into the afternoon. Plenty of sunshine, cloudier with a few showers tomorrow. I'm meteorologist Matt Gray for KECI 13.